We just drank from a fire hose. I can't keep up. Anonymity? Whew. I don't know if I got that right. That's a tough word. Here we go. That's awesome. I'm pumped about today's topic. It's pretty exciting. This is our third part. So in part one, we talked about an impactful introduction and the purpose behind that, some do's and don'ts. And it's really right to set the tone for the rest of the phone call, to build some rapport with that driver and create the type of comfortable environment where it's just a conversation, right? We're just talking about opportunities. And then in part two, I was really disappointed. It was the discovery piece, right? Where what types of questions are we asking to really get to know the driver? And really the purpose of that should be understand why they're even currently looking for or considering another position. So that's kind of the present. And then the past, what have they done leading up to this, right? Just really getting to know them. And then where a lot of recruiters don't go with it is the future, right? What's some of the driver's goals, right? So that's all part of discovery. So one of my favorite parts we're going to talk about today, the third part, which is we'll just call alignment. And what we mean by alignment is if we've done a good job with an introduction and with discovery, we can then begin to put the pieces together of what we've learned to put our best foot forward and present what we can do for that driver based off of what they want, need, and their pain points, okay? So the best way I've seen to kind of transition into that is super simple. It's just a discovery summary. And all that is it's a really good accountability piece for a recruiter because it enables you to repeat back to the driver what you learned. And if you can't repeat much back, then it tells you you probably didn't do a good job with the discovery if you didn't learn a whole lot about the driver. And there's really two reasons why you would want to do a discovery summary. One, just to make sure you're on the same page with the driver, right? Did I miss anything? Anything else you want to add? So just all on the same page. But then really the second piece of that is something in sales we call the transfer of ownership, right? Which is really that point in time where the person begins to take ownership of the decision to make a change or make a purchase or do something different. And so with the summary, it allows us to do those couple things. So I was listening to a bunch of calls in preparation for this and actually dwindled it down to one call that I think tells so much of this story that normally we listen to multiple just to kind of find a pattern, but so many of the calls were just like this that we really just need the one. So that'll make it easier for you, Josh. Right? Big thumbs up on that one. All right, so pretty short. Let me just bring you up to speed. We're going to skip a little bit of the beginning of the call, of course. So the intro was all about the recruiter. We didn't even learn the driver's name, so that was the intro. Then the discovery piece, we learned a few little tidbits. So we learned where the driver lives. We learned that he's okay with over the road and being out for about 2 weeks, and that the driver has 1 year of experience. That's all we learned about the driver in our kind of discovery phase. So now the recruiter is going to do their version of alignment, right? They're now going to start to share information about the company. Now, in fairness, the driver does say, I just want to learn a little bit more about the company. And boy, does the recruiter deliver on that. So we're going to listen in for, it's about 3 minutes of almost nonstop recruiter speaking about the company. Okay, and we'll obviously cut certain parts out to maintain the anonymity. I don't know if I got that right. That's a tough word. Anonymous. It'll be anonymous. Here we go.
What it is like I mentioned, over the road. You know, there's really, as much as I wish I could give you a schedule, I really can't. Because sometimes, with customers and everything, one time you might have an appointment time, another time you might be waiting behind other drivers, and another time it might just be drop and hook. It really just depends on what's happening in that particular day. As I'm sure you're well aware of, every day in trucking is different.
Yes, ma'am.
I do like to say that 2.5 weeks, just because, I can't specifically say 2 weeks and you're going to be home, just due to that fact.
Okay.
99% no-touch freight, no pumps or hoses. 70 to 80% of our loads are live, load, unload. The other 20 to 30 is drop and hook.
Okay.
Let's see here. We are paid weekly. Trucks are set at 65 miles per hour on the pedal, 70 on cruise.
I should have asked you, Josh, grab a piece of paper and try to write down a summary of what the recruiter's saying. I can't keep up. I can't imagine the drivers keeping up with the flow of information that's coming out here.
The trailers we run are 43 feet in length. We run mostly Peterbilts. They are automatics. They have bunk warmers, leather seats, and power inverters. We also have a safety system that will warn you with a beep and possibly apply the brakes if you get a little too close to the vehicle in front of you. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Pay. Pay will fluctuate a little depending on the load, but pay per mile is the same loaded and unloaded, okay? On top of that, we do have a monthly safety bonus paid per mile, and we have some great benefits too. Paid holidays, paid vacation, and there's a bonus paid out per day at orientation. We have a 2 full-day orientation right here. And as far as travel goes, we will reimburse you up to $250, but you will have to find your own way here. Flights, trains, or rental cars, that's on you, okay?
Okay.
We have a uniform allowance, we have a rider and pet policy, and we also have health insurance to include medical, dental, and vision. Okay?
Okay.
All right, so we just drank from a fire hose, right? Just so much information. So we already talked about a discovery summary leading right into building this plan, right? So she didn't do one of those. Like we mentioned, she didn't learn a whole lot about the driver, so it would have been tough. But the second point here is, she said it in the beginning, and we may have missed it, but she says, as I mentioned. And I just want to throw out there how much more powerful it is instead of saying, as I mentioned. Not that there's anything wrong with kind of repeating yourself or referring back to something, but how much better would it have been to be able to go back and say, like you mentioned, right? So in the beginning, in discovery, if we would have learned some of the driver's pain points, even something as simple as, yeah, I'm frustrated with where I'm at right now because I'm just not making the money I thought I would. Great pain point, really common pain point. So when we're getting to now sharing some of the details of what could help that driver, so much better to be able to go back and say, hey, as you mentioned before, you're not seeing the type of pay that you really need or that you want right now. So one thing that you'll be excited to hear about is our transition bonus or our safety bonus. What that means for you is, right, so there's three parts to what we just did there. We referred back to something the driver said, we gave a feature, and then we gave the benefit of what that feature is. That would be the number 2 thing I would say with this call is what this recruiter did is rattle off a ton of features, right? All about this company. And so many of them were great. They were really, really good. But we never did really cover like what that means for the driver. And so let's talk about this third piece then, which ties in really nicely, which is something called temperature checks. So a temperature check, all that it is a simple question. When you share some information, it'll start to break apart so it doesn't sound just like that, right? 3 minutes of nonstop fact sharing, feature sharing. You just say, what are your thoughts on that? How well would something like that work for you? And it gives the driver then an opportunity to create an emotional bond, I guess you could say, an emotional tie-in to the information being shared. Otherwise, we're trying to beat them over the head with logic, right? But we need them to not only buy in with logic, hey, this makes sense for them, but emotion of, this makes sense for me, why? Because of this, this, and this. I could see how this could help change my quality of life. So temperature checks, really two big reasons here why we do those. One, to make sure we're all on the same page. Hey, does the driver understand the information I gave him or her? Gives them an opportunity to ask more questions like, okay, safety bonus, like how does that work? Give me an idea of what do I need to do to qualify for that, right? It shows they're interested, they're engaged in the conversation. And then number two, like I've already mentioned, that emotional buy-in where they say, yeah, no, that sounds great. I could really see that working for me. Or the opposite, which is fine too, is, you know what? I don't really like that. I don't like how that works. I don't see that working for me. Because that then gives you an opportunity to address a concern, right? Well, let's work through it together, right? Maybe there's something we can do, maybe not, but we need to go over it to see if it's a good fit. So we'll wrap this all up then with the three big takeaways here, which are do a summary, right? Make sure that you ask the right questions so that you can summarize and make sure we're all on the same page and that the driver wants change. The next do is share relevant information. And the best way to share relevant features is to make sure that it ties back to the conversation you've already had in discovery. And then the associated benefits. So it's not enough to just keep beating them over the head with facts, right? Features. But what does that actually mean for the driver, for their situation? And then the third would be stop along the way to get their thoughts and feelings on things, right? Whether they agree or disagree, give them an opportunity to say so. I don't know if you remember in this call here, Josh, but the driver's response whenever they did get a word in, because that's about all it was okay.
Okay.
And I hate that response because I don't know what it means. Does it mean like, okay, that sounds good? Or does that mean, okay, it's not quite what I was looking for? Like, we have no idea. So if you're getting the response, okay, you need to ask. What do they think about that? Do they see it working for them or not? And then some don'ts then. Just because you know a ton about your company doesn't mean you need to share every bit of information you can as quickly as you can, right? So let's avoid info dumping because it's hard to retain all that information to begin with. So slow it down. And then don't try to just use logic, right? Let's get some emotional buy-in if it's a good fit to see what they actually think and feel about the information because we just want them to make a good decision for themselves. And the only way to do that is to talk through it. So those are the big takeaways for today. Like I said, I love this part of the call because it really allows you to be a solution provider and put together something that will change, hopefully, that person's life or make it, improve the quality of life. So in the next one, we'll talk about kind of wrapping this up and giving a call to action to make sure that after we've had this great conversation, it keeps moving forward in the right direction. So that's all I got for today.